In this episode, we continue our conversation around the cast of Mixed-ish, and we'll introduce our mixed message segment. Okay, so let's just dive right in because we have, all the rest of the characters to discuss as well.
Let's make this clean.
Beau's father,
straightforward,
grandfather, siblings, and so we're going to give our take on all of it. And let's start with Beau's father, Paul Johnson.
So we know him best from Saved by the Bell, and he has had quite a successful career in TV drama since his time playing a smart-mouthed teen. Now he's returned back to the sitcom world and is nailing his comedic role. He's really a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, when he was on the panel at the SCAD Fest, I didn't realize how much drama he had done, in between, and that this was actually returning back to the comedy. He's just so good in this role.
He's so good. And I loved how he was talking about how humbled he was to get this part, and I was thinking as a white man in the show about race, but he was so, he's just awesome to watch. He brings so much, and all of these characters say something about the other one, and that's how they draw out these portraits. And so it's he's really good.
The relation to each other. Yeah. So good job, Mark Paul. I remember, at the panel, the executive producer, Peter, talking about, Paul is 15 years in the game with this marriage with his strong Black wife, and their experiences are meshed to create a unique way of raising their daughter. I thought when he said that, I was like, yes, come on. Like, no one's going to be the expert but you in your life, basically is what he was saying. So we had to give him some more credit. Really, they're still navigating through a racist society, but, they know each other well.
He gets major props for being an awesome husband and dad. I'll tell you that. And he even said in that panel at Savannah College of Art and Design, he said, listen, I think about Paul and I try to Paul, what would you do when he's thinking about his own children? Mm-hmm. He was so cute. So this is definitely a new take on American Dad. Mm-hmm. So that's super fun to watch unfold.
Stay at home in the 80s. So unrealistic. But I love how they snuck in the earth conscious and green lifestyle.
He has a garden.
Show. Yes, he's very much a hippie. But, he was also a protester of classism at Berkeley Law, where he met Alicia, Beau's mother. And so, their activism, their earth consciousness, their, just all of it is fun, but he would definitely be placed very well. I think, I don't know how it was, when he was growing up, but I guess the hippies were into some of that, but he's definitely the environmental piece is very now.
Yeah. And
we're trying to save our planet.
Yeah. And I just go back to, that's why there's something in this show for everyone. Yeah. And so Paul has to deal with being other all the time. And so even if you're a white man watching Mixed-ish, there is something that everybody can identify with.
So Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell is a great mixed race biracial family dad, so it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the father, Harrison Johnson III, is Beau's grandfather, Paul's father, and played by Gary Cole. Hilarity. Cole has a long-standing career in comedy and plays a dead-on white privileged male of the 80s. He's constantly showing how he lives his life as above the law, so to speak, with his cocaine references while hobnobbing his way through life as a law firm, in his law firm and at his fancy country clubs. And, he often says that racist, biased, and flat out ignorant comment that that is
you're often stuck on what he just said and you miss the line. And It's hilarious because he delivers it with the same kind of bravery and courage that I think a lot of people of that generation and of that mindset have. And so it's very authentic.
Mm-hmm. Did you have some Harrisons in your life?
Oh, sure did. Blood related. And it's funny because, Harrison is just, you want to smack him sometimes, but he loves his grandchildren. And again, if you can't understand that duality, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about growing up mixed. He says racist things, but adores his, as he says, this comes out of his mouth, but I adore my brown grandchildren. Now there are problems in that, and I live those problems, but it's really revealing.
Yes.
And Harrison, then he comes up against his counterpoint in Denise, aka Aunt Dee Dee, who is Beau's very funny, very real, very down-to-earth auntie who keeps it real. They have a hysterical rivalry that perfectly captures the dichotomies in mixed lives. These are characters whose dynamic and individual sense of the world have left indelible marks on each of our lives. So Dee Dee is just like I could pick her out of so many people I grew up with, and we get to see about her perspective as well and where she's coming from. And I love how she's often on the other side of her fence of her sister, which goes to show that within families, all Black, all white, mixed race, you have people of differing mentalities. And so we get to see their interplay between each other. And then we learn so much more about the family. But,
but I mean, like we said about the writing, and the humor that both of, Dee Dee as Beau's aunt and Alicia's sister, the comedy that she and the grandfather bring and the writing that we see in there is just so rich. And I remember Peter, the co-creator, talking about, often kind of crossing the line, but then the writer in the writer's room, they really have to all work as a team to not cross the line. And with the writing of these characters, because it could get quote unquote mean, so to speak, but they do push it. They push it and they are raw and honest about it. I appreciate it. And it's funny.
But that's what's so real. Is like in families it does get mean, but you never doubt for a second the love in this family is there. And it got mean sometimes in my family. We had some very uncomfortable moments when I started standing up for myself and started calling things out as I became older. And teaching, always teaching.
And, but going back to Dee Dee, she's played by Christina Anthony, and she's a Second City alum from Chicago's comedy scene. Of course she is.
Bravo.
Not a surprise. And she's the Black culture aficionado of the show, for sure. She prides herself on telling her nieces and nephews about all things Black. And her dream is for the kids to be accepted and embrace the Black community, and nurtures them through their experiences alongside Alicia and Paul. And, it's that Black auntie that's like, look, we need to get your hair together. We need to get those clothes together. Let's get it all together. Cause I definitely had that auntie
we need her
in and out of my life.
We need her. I mean, but again, Mix just gives us this rich, complex character who gives tough love to Beau and the whole family. She doesn't let them off the hook with her optimism about race in America. Yeah. And that has always stayed with me. With this certain similar character in my life. I needed that point of view in my life to teach me. I got it in a very loving way sometimes, and in not so loving ways sometimes.
We have to keep it real with each other because we don't want us to learn those lessons on the street or in a violent way or in a,
it's real,
like devastating way. So
tough love, be truthful. And so she's a very strong character, a very strong woman, and we all need that balance in her life. And I wish I had Aunt Dee Dee earlier on so she could have taught me how to wrap my hair. I'll just say.
Right. But I think I definitely had more of those friendships growing up, though, my Black friends, that it wouldn't be too many growing up, again, majority white situation with school in the elementary years, especially. But I would have those friends that often would think they need to take on the role of educating me on all things Black or, just the Black culture and all that. So it's definitely an interesting twist there. But yeah, it's not all kumbaya and we are the world, right?
Right. It's not. And it's important to teach reality.
Yes.
We just believe that there's more than one version of that.
Right. And, you know, I like in this episode too, how they break down in 1985, you know, it's just so different than it is in 2020. You know, there's a scene of Bo entering the cafeteria at lunch, trying to determine where she will sit, and her younger siblings appear to have chosen their racial friend groups rather easily. And Johan, her brother, chooses his Black friends and wears his hip hop chain, for example, while Santa Monica is decked out in all things Madonna. And Bo is left bewildered because she doesn't want to choose. And, you know, FYI, episode 2 does dive into this a little deeper, but let's talk about Johan, because Bo's younger brother is played by Ethan William Childress, rather. If I messed that up, I'm sorry, Ethan. And he does a great job at playing the fun-loving and carefree younger brother who is slightly aware of his mixed race, but not to a point he's cynical yet, and mostly because of his age. But as we see his character played in Blackish as an older version of himself by the brilliant actor David Diggs, who did incredible in the original cast of Hamilton. I love him. But, you know, he is just optimistic. He just has a lighter approach to life, you know. And, you know, Johan, he's just optimistic. And no matter the circumstances, I love him so far. He's such a cute.
And he will fight a cat, too. He will fight a cat when he needs to. We see that in some upcoming episodes, which I love.
Yes. Yeah. But he's the carefree. You have a younger brother.
Yeah, I had a younger brother, 5 years younger. And so it was different for us. I think it is. And I'm so glad that Mixed Dish tackles that, you know, coming of age story from both a male and a female perspective. You know, for my brother, I don't know if it was different because I had the hair thing to deal with and he could maybe, you know, not deal with that part of it. I don't know if it was sports and that guys just don't overtly talk about this stuff. Sorry if I'm being, you know, gender specific. I don't know what it was, but I just really feel like my brother had a very different experience. And I will say though, I came 9 years after Loving. I was born 9 years after Loving v. Virginia. He was born 14 years after Loving v. Virginia. So there probably was that period of time in there where things shifted a little bit as we got, you know, more advances of society and how we dealt with, you know, racial identity.
And he was the athlete.
And well, we both were athletes.
Yes, both. Definitely. But
definitely, I think that there may have been something in the boy world I just didn't understand. Yeah. It may have been, but, you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts on growing up mixed race, maybe as a man versus a woman, or kid, boy or a girl, maybe. And then there's younger sister, Santa Monica, the white Tinu bopper. You know, I absolutely love her. I had her in Me Too. Everyone had a little Madonna in them, didn't they? And this is like... my
little Christian upbringing though, I didn't even get to talk about that in the first part of this, but like, you know, Madonna, it was like we were pretty sheltered. That goes back to our little commune.
Well, I get it. I can't believe I was left alone in the basement to watch MTV at that age. But listen, I have to say she rocked her otherness, and the fact she rocked her otherness before otherness was even celebrated. And so kudos to you, Madonna.
But Santa Monica, she embraced Madonna, and she, you know, totally is like my youngest sister who was born in 1987, just the carefree, the pressure-free, carefree, you know, take on life. And I am who I am. I'm friends with whoever I want to be friends with, approach to life, rightfully so, as our generation was blazing the trail for that, though. You know, like I think you, the reason why you can dissect with your brothers, you blazed the trails a little bit, you know?
Yeah, and it gives us that very individual, even though you're in the same family, you have a very specific experience that's unique to you in terms of identity. But Santa Monica Johnson is played by young actress Mykal-Michelle Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's 5 years old on the show.
She's just a phenomenal talent. She seems to live this pressure-free life, getting away with most things because she's cute, and her parents are preoccupied with her sister and brother. But you definitely see her as a little protege of Aunt Dee Dee with that too.
Oh, right.
So that's really fun to watch their dynamic together.
Oh my gosh, yes. She has a lot of sass, and just the actress, Mykal-Michelle, for pronouncing that right. I think she's adorable. And to see, it's Rashida Jones that plays her older in Blackish, and to see the younger version of her, I'm like, oh yeah, she had it from birth. It seems
very consistent storytelling.
yes. But I was the oldest. I am rather the oldest of three, and understand that carefree character for sure. And I had a little resentment towards the youngest sister because, they're getting away with a lot. So it's again why I relate to Bo. I mean, Bo's thinking about everything way more deeply than the other two. Like, they are just like, look, this is who I am. I'm just rolling with it, and I'm happy. But the first Bo's, yes, the overthinker, the trying to, I think, also represent her family well. She knows. She's like, no one's done this before me. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of taking that pressure on.
Yeah.
Like, I am the first. My parents didn't even do this when they were younger because they're not biracial. I'm the first. So I need to, and I didn't, yeah. And preparing for the show, I didn't even think about that really until now. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I think we're at a place, there's so much more that we'll get into with these characters. But I think we are, able to relax into our identities a little bit because we've lived these lives, or we've come to terms with how we want to tell the world our story. We are storytellers, so that helps a lot to do with how we process things. I think becoming a mom, becoming a professional, all of those things help me. And then I'll be honest, when we saw Barack Obama become president, I was kind of like, drop the mic, we've arrived. And I say that not just because he was biracial, because he talked about it. There was his famous race speech where he addressed, this issue of growing up biracial Black boy who had a racist grandmother, and just opening that dialogue brings healing. And so it's a dialogue that I long to see all my life, which is why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you've exhaled a little bit
into my, experience, I guess, I would like to ask the viewers about that. Like, have they exhaled into their identity, and, how they came to that? I think, all my life I've has been a process of exhaling into my identity. The younger years, the college years, becoming a mother and a professional, they all contributed so much to the journey. And Barack Obama did lead, led us to start talking about race in a different way, and opened up the conversation in ways that, I needed personally. I was in the voting line with my oldest son. He was like 2 months old in line when I was voting for Barack Obama. It was so special, like, to experience that, and just definitely a proud moment. But this podcast is also part of my exhale. I've been researching and writing about this topic my whole life, and talking about my experience and seeing events similar to my upbringing in the 80s play out on the show Mixed-ish is therapeutic. It really is. And I know for some, I've heard it's a bit triggering, and it's hard, and they don't even want to go there. And I encourage them to go there, and be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, you might need to have a glass of wine with it. I did the first couple episodes just like, what am I going to get into? But I have loved getting to know these characters, and loved getting to know where they're going with the story, and just all the tidbits in there. It's awesome.
Because don't we all have a need to want to be known? We do.
Yeah.
So I love watching this with my husband, because I'm like, there's things I could never tell him about growing up. And I'm like, they nailed it. Like, just, I'm so glad. And, it's just so fun to be known or, and in a way that hasn't really been out there much.
Yes.
So to wrap up, we want to introduce our mixed message segment. So to the point of being known, which we think is so important for everybody, no matter who you are, we invite you to share your experience with racial identity. Did you have an easy time with it? What did your parents explain to you about race growing up? Or if you're not mixed race, but maybe you grew up in some other category labeled other, like we did, black, white, other, drop us a line on how you formed your own identity and blazed your own trail.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from folks. I want to know. I want to get a sense of what y'all are feeling about all of this that we're talking about and the sitcom Mixed-ish. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch. And it's a great discussion point. You could have your mixed message shared on our show as well if you send us a DM with your thoughts. And you can do that through our website, mixedlifeatl.com, and find us on social media at mixedlifeatl. Make sure to watch the episode 2 before the next podcast of Mixed-ish so that you can understand what we're talking about a little bit there. So till next time, bye.
Bye.
Mixed Life ATL is recorded in Atlanta, Georgia, and produced by SDB 360 LLC and Capacity Media. You can hear us wherever mainstream podcasts can be found. For information on how to advertise your business on this podcast, please message us at mixedlifeatl.com.